Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Well, thank
Good
you.
afternoon, Mayor.
We are here this afternoon for phase 2 of our Safe City Initiative meetings. Welcome, welcome, welcome into this discussion that we are having so that we can formulate a plan to make our city the safest city in Texas. That's the vision, that's the goal, and certainly we will reach that goal and we will realize that vision. I'm honored to be here with you today, certainly. Honored to have Councilmember Carlson here with us today. Let's do some housekeeping items before we begin. Councilwoman McAuliffe is en route back to Texas from a vacation. Y'all remember what those were like, certainly, and so she won't be with us today. Mayor Pro Tem Compion is on vacation and out of the country. I don't know what that's like. Hopefully we will get to that one day, Mr. Carlson, you and I. And Council Member Yancey is at work today. And so it's just myself and Mr. Carlson here. That's okay because we don't have anything that we're going to act on today. So we can continue this discussion moving forward. And so the City of Lamarque City Council Special Workshop, November 15th, 2021. Notices here. The City Council of the City of Lamarque, Texas will conduct a special workshop on November 15th, 2021, beginning at 1 p.m. Council chambers located at 1109B Bayou Road, Lamarque, Texas, as well as via video conference hosted through Zoom. In accordance with section 551.127B of the Texas Government Code, quorum of the Lamarque City Council and mayor intend to be at and will physically be present at 1109B Bayou Road, Lamarque, Texas. This location will be open to the public. The meeting will be broadcast at this location and via YouTube. The council will meet for the purpose of considering the following agenda. The meeting has been called to order. Kiera, would you give us a roll call, please?
Mayor.
I'm here.
Councilmember District A. Absent. Councilmember District B is absent. Councilmember District C
I'm present.
and Councilmember District E is absent.
Very, very good. I will do the invocation. Councilman Carlson, will you play?
Yes, sir.
That's great. Father, we come in the name of Jesus Christ, thanking you, Lord, for your presence in our community, and certainly thanking you for this auspicious body that you've assembled here today. Lord, we thank you for each and every member of our community, and we pray, Lord, that as we come together, Lord, your wisdom, your grace, and your mercy might prevail. Lord, that we would have a pathway forward so that those that live in this community can feel safe in their homes, so that they can pursue life and liberty and happiness as well. Bless us today with your vision, your understanding, and your wisdom. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Very good. As always, in every meeting, we have citizens participation. So item 4, citizens participation, limited to 3 minutes per person. Comments from the public will be heard at this time. Any person with city-related business who signed up may speak to council on a specific agenda item. It's limited to 3 minutes. You should give the mayor your name and item you wish to speak about. Compliance with the Texas Open Meetings Act, the city may not deliberate on comments. Personal attacks will not be allowed, and personnel matters should be addressed to the city manager during normal business hours. If you are participating by phone, you can press *6 to mute or unmute yourself if you're wishing to speak. If you're participating via Zoom, a smartphone, tablet, or computer, there should be a microphone icon in the lower portion of your screen. You may press the icon to mute and unmute yourself so that you may speak. If you're attending in person, the mayor will call on you when it is your turn. Kyle, are there any persons via the internet wishing to speak at this time?
There are several people joining us via Zoom.
I don't know if anybody's wanting to speak, you just need to go ahead and unmute. Okay. Is there any person joining us via Zoom that wishes to participate in the citizens' participation portion of our meeting? If so, you may unmute your device at this time.
Hi, I'm with the Resource and Crisis Center of Galveston County. I'm our community outreach specialist here at the Resource and Crisis Center. And thank you for inviting us to be here today.
Thank you, Mrs. Is it Lazo? Is that how you pronounce it?
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Ms. Lazo. Any other persons wishing to speak or participate via Zoom? One more time. Any other persons wishing to speak or participate via Zoom? Well, welcome and thank you for participating by being a good listener. Are there any persons in the audience today, physically present, that wish to address council at this time? One more time, are there any persons in the audience with us today that wishes to address the council at this time? Very good. Thank you for your participation and for your good listening skills. We'll move now to item 5, old business, Safe City Initiative, Phase 2. This is a vision that I have had from the beginning of this year. As I said to you before, make no mistake about it, Lamarque will be the safest city in Texas in everything that we have done to this point. Whether it be policies, procedures, whether it be staff changes, or whether it be even budgetary processes. All of these things are aimed at making this city the safest city in Texas. All of our resources have been put toward making this city the safest city in Texas. It is a determination that we have made, and with diligence and determination, work ethic, patience, and persistence, we will get there. And I'm excited about getting there because I believe that we can get there with the group that we have before us today. And I believe that we can get there with interested community members that are willing to make the sacrifice and work toward a common goal. So I'm excited about you all's presence today. Thank you for being here. At this time, I'm going to turn it over to our interim city manager, Chief Randall Oregon, so that he can allow you to make introductions and he can certainly conduct this meeting. Chief Oregon.
Thank you, Mayor Bell. As Mayor mentioned, this is this is his brainchild, and it's really a very ambitious goal and vision, and I know we're going to get there because we really need it. I'm going to go around the room. We have I call it a blue ribbon panel of subject matter experts here. We got them on the Zoom. We got them sitting here in front of you, some of the audience. So if we go around the room, if you spend a little bit of time giving your goal, your role with the city or county, and we'll do a round table. Our chief constable, Derrick Rose.
Good morning. Well, good evening. I'm Derrick Rose. I'm a Precinct 3 constable. I've been constable for 16 years. I've been in law enforcement for 34 years. I've served many roles in law enforcement as chief of Texas ICPD and also a sergeant with the Sheriff's Department when I was there. It's my pleasure serving on this council. I'm a lifelong resident of Lamarque, Texas City area, graduated from Lamarque in '79. So I have a purpose for being here, just seeing that my city, my area stays safe. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Jack Rody, District Attorney for Galveston County.
Yeah.
My name is Kathleen Van Stavern. I'm the Code Compliance Supervisor and the Interim Development Services Director for the City of Lamarque. I've served the city for approximately close to 20 years now in law enforcement and in code compliance.
Hi, my name is Russell Washington Jr. I'm the City Marshal with the City of Lamarque at this time. Born and raised here, all 58 years. Graduated from Lamarque High School, proud graduate from Lamarque High School. Worked for the city back in the early 80s for 4.5 years, then went to the school district where I became the Chief Police of Lamarque ISD. When they became no longer, I went back, did some other work, but I'm back with the city now, the city marshal. And like Constable Rose says, I care about the city, I love the city, and I want to do whatever I can to help the city.
Good afternoon. Lieutenant Derrick Fillmore with the Galveston County Sheriff's Office. I am the Assistant Division Commander for the School Liaison Division assigned to the Texas City Independent School District.
My name is Brian Getchis. I moved to Texas in 1981 and started with the Texas City Police Department, and I retired in 2017. Since that time, I've had several different jobs, but I enjoy the criminal investigation side of law enforcement for our communities and kind of grown up with the people from this area. I feel like my home is Texas City. I've lived there, and I'm proud to be here today.
Thank you, Brian. Let's go to the screen now, the Zoom. Introduce yourself. I think Vincent on the top left.
Yeah, Vincent Herrera, Texas New Mexico Power, Director of Distribution Engineering.
And Dr. Taylor.
Good afternoon, Dr. Roy Taylor. I've been a police chief for 26 years, law enforcement 40, but I have a real passion for community policing. Learned a lot from Randall, and I appreciate his offer to assist you in making your place the safest city in Texas. That's a good goal.
Thank you, Chief. My Deputy Chief, Chad.
Chad Wagner, Deputy Chief, been here 23 years. Just excited to move forward.
Thanks, Chad. Lieutenant Price. Okay. Moved. I think we have retired Police Chief of Little Rock, Lawrence Johnson. Lawrence, you there?
Yes, I am. How are you today?
Go ahead, give us something.
Well, I'm a retired police chief from Little Rock. Also retired deputy chief from Oklahoma City. Been involved in a number of community-oriented projects. I think this is a wonderful project that you guys have started down there in Texas, and certainly happy to be part of it and to assist in any way I can.
Okay. Lawrence used to call me when I was in Conway, Arkansas. We cry on each other's shoulder every now and then, right, Lawrence?
Yeah, quite a bit.
Okay. Ms. Lazo, thank you for coming aboard. And I do thank Mandolin Salazar for getting you aboard. We missed you, missed this, the mental side, the social work side for the first meeting. So hopefully you stay with us for phase 3 also, okay? Chief Burby, I don't see him on there. Is he on there, Kyle? Or Sheriff Burby? Okay. In the audience, we have, used to be our city clerk, Carolyn Anderson, right? Yeah, she worked with us for a while. We've got our municipal prosecutor, Megan Jones. So you got the state and the county and municipal right here. And we got the media there, Emma Collins from Galveston County Daily News. Did I miss anybody that's okay? Oh, we can't forget Captain Roy in the back left. He used to drive the litter bus, which is going to kick off again in January. Roy, thank you for all your help. Mandolin, thank you for your advice and working with us on. I know you work in all over the county. You work Galveston, League City, on and on. Dickinson now. So thanks for your advice and support on everything you know. Okay, let me give a little overview of what happened. The mayor's Safe City Initiative. I broke it down as I was pointed the moderator to 3 phases. Phase 1 started October 25th. In this phase, we looked at the crime rates for our city. And basically, I introduced all the blue ribbon panel. We talked about it. We went on about 90 minutes. This is what we hope to do today. It might be less than 90 minutes today because we have just a certain selected thing to cover. The crime statistics went around. I have it again. I'm going to pass it around in just a minute. There's no question about it. We're a growing city. We're the second fastest growing city in the county. Talking to Kathleen today, you wouldn't believe the number of houses that are going into our city. We talked about some of the demographics that cause crime. One is, no question about it, the unemployment rate. Lamarck's unemployment rate as of September, 8.2%. The county's was 6.3%. Texas is 5.9%. And the United States is 6%. So we're the highest in unemployment for our county, state, et cetera, et cetera. Our demographics, racial and ethnicity, white with 34%, Hispanic 31%, African-American, Black 30.4, Asian 3.3. So we're really a very diverse community, as you can see. Crime rates, our violent crime rate and our property crime rate just way beyond most of the cities in the county, in the state, and nationally. Even some of the cities that are noted similar cities, you know, not maybe the same socioeconomically, like Webster, Seabrook, South Houston, Santa, we are above the crime rates of most every city around. I mean, that's just the way it is. That's why we're here today, to work on reducing crime, fear of crime, and restoring and maintaining order. I'm looking at the crime stats that I passed around last time. I'll just use it as an example. It's in 2020, our violent crime rate and our property crime rate. Let me cover what this means. When you talk about crime rates, it doesn't matter the size of the city when you use what they call crime rate. In other words, on an equation, you'd have the number of crimes divided by the city's population times 100,000, and you end up with a crime rate. And it doesn't matter what size your city is, you can actually see how good or bad you are. Well, as an example, in 2020, the whole year, our violent crime rate. Now, when I say violent crime, let me tell you what that is. They changed the statistics with the FBI about 8 or 9 years ago. They used to just call it Part 1 crimes. Part 1 crimes are the serious crimes. There's about 8 of them. Well, they broke it down into violent and property. Violent crimes are forcible rape, robbery, aggravated assault, and murder. That's person crimes, also called violent crimes. Property crimes include larceny, auto theft, burglary, and it throws in arson, but we're not too worried about arson. We don't have that many. Most cities don't. The violent crime rate in Lamarque for 2020 was 532 Part 1 violent crimes per 100,000 population. And I'm going to pass this around. You'll see this. The violent crime rate for Texas was 447. So we're above that. The property crime rate for Lamarque was 4,231 property crimes per 100,000. The state rate is 2245. So we're double. And this goes on for the county and so forth. So you can see we do have issues with crime, and we need to work on what that is. I'm going to pass around the demographics. You want to take that with you. I sent this to you by email. The factors causing crime. Now, you know, I'm not this is coming from the FBI. There's 13 factors that cause crime. Even the weather is an issue with crime. For some reason, the hotter it is, the colder it is, people get upset and they commit more crimes. Of the 13 that are here listed, which includes population density, affects citizens' attitudes towards crime, the practices of reporting crime by citizens, and modes of transportation. Of the 13, there's only 2 that are actually fixable by the law enforcement agency. One is the administrative and investigative emphases of law enforcement. And number 2, the effective strength of the law enforcement agency. So out of the 13, my department, you know, that's my other hat, can only fix 2 from internally. The number of people we have and the investigative and administrative emphasis regarding law enforcement. That's that. I'm passing around the 5-year stats, which I just covered. So you look under 2020 and you'll see we're high. I'm passing around. Councilwoman Yancey asked for this one. It's the 10-year crime rate. Now, this is the index crime rate. It's all the crimes of those property and violent crimes. And if you could see, Kyle, I don't know if you put that on it, but the gray is Lamarque, and we're way above the county, and the state's rates. Okay, so there's that. And I threw this in. If you remember in 2018, President Obama came up with a report. It's called the President's Task Force on 21st Century Policing. And there's 99 pages and 62 of the recommendations that a lot of cities are following. Of those 62 recommendations, 3 of those recommendations basically state cities need to go and move into community-oriented policing, which is actually in English simplified. It's going from being reactive to being preventative or proactive. And I sent a video out when I took over the PD, and then when I took over the city. My video, 5 or 7 minute video, depending which one, I talk about for the PD side anyway. Officers need to understand their primary purpose is to prevent crimes from happening in the first place. Can't be much more basic than that. We do have to make arrests, and bad guys have to go to jail, but let's try to work up ways on how to prevent crimes from happening in the first place. That is one thing we need to keep in mind. That's what community policing is all about. Okay. The last meeting, I want the subject matter experts to chime in. On our last meeting, I'm going to start with, let's see, Dr. Taylor, Chief. What was some of the things that came out of that struck a nerve in your methodical mind of being a chief, having a PhD in criminal justice, and he's actually a war hero. Dr. Taylor is a lieutenant colonel in the reserve, and he received a Silver Star for heroism in I think it was Afghanistan or Iraq. But Roy, go ahead and tell us what jumped out at you regarding the first meeting, which talked about mainly the crime rates and stuff like that. You still there? Okay, Jack, would you cover this for me until he gets bored on what struck you pretty heavily?
One of the things that we talked about last time was.
Can you put that a little closer?
Sure. The presence of police in the community and the building of rapport and relationships with the community that they serve. And one of the things that I had mentioned as well, just seeing cases that come up to our office and working very closely with the police agency, is that one of the biggest problems that we've experienced is being able to find witnesses when crimes occur, especially when violent crimes occur, is a factor of trust in the community, in the system, and the willingness to come forward and cooperate with law enforcement, that being police and prosecutors, to assist the PD in investigating those cases and assist us in actually presenting those cases in court.
You know, and I mentioned this last meeting, if you remember, there's a study performed eons ago that the most important part of thing that helps solve major cases is the witnesses, and making sure that the preliminary investigation by that officer on the street is comprehensive about witnesses, and don't chase them away, because they solve most. When I was a detective, most of my homicides I worked were solved by witnesses, and forensics are important, but 99% comes from the witnesses that tell you something, and we all know that. So that officer that's taking the report, the guy from the bottom, a gal from the bottom, that's the key, and we need to understand that. So thank you, Jack. Chief Lawrence Johnson, I know you weren't here in the first meeting. You had to skip out. Could you, everything you've learned about our crime rates and things, what could you add?
Well, I think it's important to follow up on the narrative that the prosecutor put forward. We have to explore the reason it's difficult to find witnesses. We have to explore the reason it's difficult for people to come forward. A lot of that is distrust in the entire system, not only the police, but the prosecution side of the house as well. I mean, we have to devise ways and means to make sure witnesses feel safe when they come forward and don't feel they're going to be victims of crimes themselves because they chose to cooperate with authorities. That's an important side of that. In addition to that, I think that, I'm sure we'll get to this part, we talk about the lack of law enforcement personnel or manpower. There's so many other ways that we can incorporate entities within our community to help us booster law enforcement efforts and to identify and solve crimes. We need to look beyond the fact that we don't have enough personnel because many cities operate, as you know, below the level of desired level of manpower. And so you incorporate people like utility workers and others who are about in the community, you train them, you incorporate security personnel that work for private security. You do a lot of things to bring people into the loop that normally wouldn't be involved in the process. But I think you're on the right track. I think that you'll get there. It's just one of those things that is slow and methodical. And you have to have someone on board that understands the necessity of incorporating these people into the process.
Okay. Dr. Taylor, you back yet or still? Okay. Looking at your 5-year stat sheet, look at the bottom there. It says LMPD/Texas. You see that? Move along to the right. It has 2.0/1.5. Those are the officers per 1,000 that I compared against the state rate. Okay, how to determine that? The numerator is the number of officers. The denominator is the population of that jurisdiction times 1,000. So that's officers per 1,000. You all see that? Look at 2020. You see it's 1.8. That's Lamarck's officers per 1,000, and the state is 2.0. We're a little low. Oh, thank you, Kyle. You see that on can you circle that or put the cursor in there or something? It's the third on the bottom left, third down on the left side. You go across there and you see, go to the far right, Kyle, where it says 2020, column, the next column over. There you go. We are at 1.8 to the state rate of two officers per 1,000. Obviously, you were a little low, not that low, but we are low. And that's an important factor. And I'm going to tell you this, I've studied that, and it's it depends on how you talk to. I wish Dr. Penn was here. By the way, Dr. Everett Penn, he's a criminologist from the University of Houston at Clear Lake. He couldn't make it. He's coming? Oh, we are? Okay. All right. Well, he can't, anyway, he'll tell you this too. It depends on the jurisdiction. Some jurisdictions need more officers per 1,000. So that's set, we're matching it against Texas. Does that mean, we're really low? It depends. We're a busy city. We're growing. Look at the second fastest growing city in Galveston County. So that figure might be higher. Okay. Russell, thank you for coming. Russell's our city marshal. Would you like to add something to what we're talking about? We've talked about this.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir, Chief. We had a meeting a while back, and I think that myself and Constable Rose and Lieutenant Fillmore understand one of the prime examples of community policing is seen right in the schools. When Derrick was in Texas City and I was in Marque, and I know Lieutenant Fillmore now, you can really see how that dynamic works when an officer is there every day that kids can walk up to and maybe give them information or trust, and then expect that. I tell people all the time that kids love structure. They will respond to structure. Sometimes if you have to put a little pressure on them and try to get them to do what they do, but after a little while, they grow to trust you. And from me working in the school district for 18 years, there's no more trust in kids when they believe when you tell them something that you're going to do what you say. And it just offers up. That way, when there's an incident that might happen in the school or incident that might happen in the city, you can go to those kids, or either they're going to call you on your personal phone or leave a message if you have a tip line, and they're going to let you know, hey, this is going to happen. And that way you're able to get out front, like Chief, like you say, instead of being reactive, be proactive on a lot of those incidents that's going to happen. So I think with everybody's here, that there's a way and to look forward to use that model of just being there every day with the kids and possibly coming up with some type of mentorship program. I would love to do that. To see the PD, I'm saying do something like that. Myself and Lieutenant Fillmore, we've talked about trying to implement a teen court to try to get the city back involved into the school system, since so much of our crime in the city might be committed by some of our younger patrons. But that would be a way for us to break that ice and to get back in there to try to build that relationship, since we talk about building a relationship with those younger students.
And, we had a meeting last week. City Marshal Washington was there, the Chief Constable, Derrick Rose. I pledged to make sure we work together. And Derrick, you got so many years' experience. You want to add something to the story?
Thank you, Chief. As Russell just iterated, been at the school district for over 12 years and working closely with Tech City PD. We had a partnership. We had so many, we solved so many crimes just by being there and being honest with the kids. And the trust factor. And like I told the chief the other day, we really have to get started and getting back into the schools and start from scratch, because there's a lot of these kids, when they go home, they go home to no one. There's no one there. They don't have any food. They don't have any clothes. The resources aren't there. So we have to start there, because I'm school-based. We have to go and start reading to our kids in elementary schools to build that trust factor, so that when these kids grow, we can see them mature and we can be there for them as they go along into second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, until they graduate. And then when things happen in the community, they will come. And like Jack said, it's hard to find witnesses. That's that trust factor that we done built into them, where they will feel that it's an obligation to come testify in court. We saw so many crimes over at Texas City, out in the city, just because they trusted us enough to come beforehand, and sometimes after the crime was committed, they come and tell us, hey, look here, Constable. Well, I wasn't Constable, Chief then, but such and such and such did what? And we worked closely. We had a partnership with the PD, and we saw so many crimes that way. So it has to start right now. We have to get back into the school system. We have to give these kids something to do outside of school. There's nothing right now for them to do when they get out of school, for as athletics, for as the resources or the playgrounds to go and play. They can't go out and play. We're teaching them to be on the computer system all day, but what other things are we giving them? So there are so many things that we can do for this community, and it's going to take time, but we all have that time, and we have the want and the will to do it and to get it done. Thank you.
Thank you, Constable Rose. Let's move on to the school system. He's the chief law enforcement guy for all the schools here, SROs and so forth, Lieutenant Derrick Fillmore. And by the way, thanks for coming today.
What I wanted to add is, just like Constable Rose said, a lot of the problems that we normally see is that kids don't have anything to do once they're back in the neighborhoods. I just don't see the programs, or anything for them to do constructive. I mean, I got a lot of things. Once I see a lot of the parents and they talk about their kids, the problems they're having, parents are begging for things, for help, for assistance. They always ask for the, it's not Scared Straight, but it's, I forgot what it's called. Project Detour. Yeah. They ask for that Project Detour, just for a way for their kids to see the side of being incarcerated before they actually get to that point. And, you know, just knowing from being in different divisions of the sheriff's office, a lot of times we don't realize what kids go home to. There's a lot of kids that may not get a good meal to eat at home, or their home life is just unbelievable. I mean, the house is in total disarray. I mean, we just don't realize some of the environments that these kids live in, and then come to school and they may not be exactly as clean as the other kids. And, you know, and then we got kids that are so far behind on the learning curve. You know, just trying to bridge that gap between the learning curve is just another area. I mean, I just see programs where we help kids with tutoring, and it's just so much that, you know, and I'm not even on the campus every day like the deputies, which I want to say do an amazing job of bringing that community policing type atmosphere to the schools. You know, I grew up around, or I was trained that way when I came to GPD, and with Chief Wiley, when he was here, they were real big on instilling that community policing aspect of it. So that's the only thing I know. I mean, I'm the baby here on this panel as far as law enforcement. Worked for Constable Rose back at the school district. Knew Chief Washington back in the days, and worked closely with Captain Getchus when he was at the PD. One thing that he did that was great for me when I was a sergeant on the campus is we would meet weekly, and he would tell me about some of the things going on in the city, which made me understand why certain kids were acting certain ways. So, you know, then I can say, oh, okay, I can see why he's all of a sudden getting in trouble now. So I know how to approach him and, you know, share some information and get him back on the right track where he's not, you know, getting so far off in schools.
Thank you. Now, Brian Getchus, retired captain from Texas City PD and many years of investigative experience. Brian, give us your take on this conversation.
As far as the school districts go, they do everything that we do. They have a behavioral assessment team if a child's acting up in school, but that's not shared with the police department, nor do we share the behavioral problems we're having with a certain family with the school district. If those two could be combined somehow, and I understand HIPAA and FERPA and the different things, a lot of those laws don't necessarily apply to the police department, but I feel we could certainly give law enforcement the information to the school district, who could give it to their behavioral analysis team, their doctors and psychiatrists and things. And we start sharing with the community. Each one of us are two separate entities right now as far as mental health goes for a child. The school district only takes care of 8 hours a day. Police department and community's got to worry about the rest of the time. And that's why I see a big divide.
Right.
We don't share the information. And I understand there's a lot of different laws, things that would come in, but that's where one of the proposals I made is to work with through the DA's office and figure out how they share information.
In fact, I mentioned to some of you that we have a position, it's not filled yet. We have to formulate the job description for a social worker. I know League City's got 2 or 3. We're going to end up with 1 to start with, and because a lot of these, you know, many of those involved with offenders have mental issues, and it's important that we recognize that and work with them. So that's going to happen. Moving along to our code enforcement side, we all know that those that are in law enforcement, one of the magic bullets for preventing and controlling crime, reducing citizens' fear of crime is working on blight. Those areas that are, you know, have issues. Kathleen is the code enforcement guru, code compliance guru. She's now at Developmental Services. interim director. The broken windows paradigm theory, whatever you want to call it, March of 1982 was published in the Atlantic Monthly. And it was actually written by two criminologists. They actually, in a nutshell, it states that minor transgressions, if allowed to not be addressed, result in progressively increased urban blight. That one broken window, if you don't fix it, it results in 2 and 3, and finally people move out of their neighborhood, and guess who moves in? The criminals and the foolhardy. And that's what works with our city. When I left in 2014, we had one person who did about 4 different jobs. Anna Timms, she was code compliance, a few other jobs. Now we have Kathleen and three code compliance officials. Maybe it's not enough even, but manicured neighborhoods. Every time I've worked a case, I would, when I was a detective, I didn't know about the broken windows theory then. I'd ask them, they broke into like this house and skipped this house, broke into that house, burglary, skipped 2. And I'd say, why did you choose those houses? And I mean, I was a young detective. They said, because that guy manicured his lawn. I'm not gonna mess with him. He's gonna kick my butt. Or the house is so clean, somebody cares. That's why I broke into the other place. Had bicycles in the front and junk. And it's true. A manicured neighborhood, and that's why she's doing that work for us, will equal less crime. It works. And that's the broken windows theory, the 1982 article. Okay. Kathleen, give us your take on the story.
I was made code enforcement supervisor after Anna Timms left. And at that point, we really didn't have that much of a blight program. I have to give kudos to Mayor Bell for bringing that up and coming up with ideas of what to do. And at that point, we decided that we need to start tearing down all these dilapidated structures and looking at the neighborhoods. And I agree with the broken windows theory to a certain extent. And, there's been books written since then that kind of saying that that's kind of really doesn't help that much. And basically what it is when you clean these neighborhoods up, you're helping to clean attitudes in a way. Because if you have one house where someone can't take care of their house because of financial needs or hardships, whatever, it doesn't make them bad. It just makes it they need some financial help. But if you have this rundown house, like we've had a few, we've torn down 175 or more dilapidated structures in the city in the last 5 years. And these are houses that are falling down where families lived here. They're original families for the city of Lamarque, where their children didn't want to be here anymore. They wanted to move off to greener pastures. So they abandoned these structures. And we demolished them, went through the process, which isn't an easy process, I'm sure you know, and we demolished almost 175, if not a few more, of these structures. Well, then we looked, we talked to people that lived there, and then they see these vacant lots that they had now. The city's cleaning up, we're getting rid of your blight, but now we've got all these vacant lots. And when I had an elderly gentleman on Kansas come out and talk to me, and we were standing in the street, and he says, you know what? I'm scared to walk down my street because the grass is so high. Okay, well, we tore down the structures. We took out the broken windows. And we got to do something about clearing it so everyone can see everywhere. Because at that point, you couldn't see from one street to the other to the other. So we'll go back. Council again says, here, Kathleen, it can come up with something for this. And then we came up with the lots. We maintain over 100, almost 108 vacant lots that we mow every month so that these people can walk down their street and feel safe because these lots are not overgrown. So you went from the broken windows theory, you demolished these homes, the broken windows, where the criminals were running and hiding, and they had drop down doors and stuff in them where they would hide and run in from the police. Then you have overgrown lots. So then we go from there to there to there to there. So it's almost a slippery slope. But then it comes to the point where, okay, we're doing this. We've torn down all the houses that we can. There's still a few that that we're bringing to building standards now, but the actual blight has pretty much been removed. So where do you go from there? I wanted to say that I completely agree with you on getting into the schools and talking, and the officers being visible to these people. When I came to Lamarque as a patrol officer in 1994, after I got through FTO, I would have volunteered at Lake Grove Elementary every day on my lunch, 30 minutes, to help teach children how to read. And then they would get to know me. And you're right, they helped with a lot of investigations and a lot of calls I had down the road. So we can take the broken windows theories and we can demolish the substandard homes. We can clear and manicure all these lots. We can help find resources for people who just need that financial help to make their homes better. But you've got to find another way to reach, to change these attitudes. When you see a house on your street and you're the only remaining house on that street because all the rest of them, the families moved away and all, that you're thinking, okay, well, what do I need to do? Why should I improve my home? Why should I do this? Or you have a rental where your landlord doesn't want to do anything for it. But when you have officers going into the schools, talking to the kids that live in these homes, you're getting to know them and you're getting to know the families there, then you're changing the attitudes. We've got to change the way of thinking that exists there, no matter how many houses you tear down, no matter how many lots you mow, if you're not out there talking to people, stopping and helping them carry their groceries in. Hey, what's going on? How are things in your neighborhood? Because they know you, they know me, they know you. And they're going to come up and talk to us because we've been here so long. But we also have to go and talk to them because they're not going to come talk to us. The kids will, if they know you and if you're in these schools like you guys are. So the broken windows theories is great. And we did that. We exceeded the city's strategic plan within the first 2-3 years based on trying to rid the city of the blight. But it doesn't stop there. Somebody else has got to pick it up there too and go with us and on down this road with it, which I think this is what this panel is going to do.
Exactly. And, we're talking about crime. We're talking about, look at the factors of the 13 factors and what you're talking about. Population density. Obviously, the more population could have more crime. The composition of the population, youth concentration. Number 3, stability of population with respect to residents' mobility, commuting patterns, and modes of transportation. Economic conditions. This singing a good message. Economic conditions, including median income, poverty level, and job availability. That's what you're talking about, Kathleen. Cultural factors, religious characteristics, recreation. Family. I just got a text from somebody in the audience. Family conditions with respect to divorce. Divorce and family cohesiveness. Income. That's got a lot to do with it. And we're working on those other things. Police can't affect that. We have no control over that stuff, but it's those factors cause crime. So as we work on a community with the many things that the mayor's doing and council's doing, we're trying to get there. So there's not just things, not just one factor that causes crime, but obviously this is more of a law enforcement, public safety thing, and we need the other things to work and fall into place. Okay, I'm not sure if Chief Taylor, you back? Okay. Chad, you want to add something, my deputy chief?
Yeah, I'll just kind of piggyback on what everybody else is saying. I mean, I think getting back in the schools is important. We tried for a little while. We did the TAPS program with Dr. Penn, and that was very interesting, not only for the kids, but for the officers to see how the teens view them, and it worked out really well when we got in the schools. And the focus was not on, the audience was at-risk youth, and we went in there and we developed relationships with these at-risk youth. And a lot of the things that people are saying was very true. The officers learned a lot about what these kids were going home to and things like that, and it helped both sides. And we have got to do and building relationships, because it's not like you may have crowds of witnesses at the scene and we can't get anybody to cooperate. So I think we're on the right track. We just have to continue doing things like this.
Okay. Look, Rosa, you're from the Gulf Coast Center, right?
No, I'm sorry. I am from the Resource and Crisis Center of Galveston County.
Okay. Now you're Mandolin, and you've been talking, right? What do you think? Correct me. What do you think? I mean, somewhere in this mix, we need to get you involved with us to help us get there. We're talking school issues and the youth and so forth.
Yes.
What do you have to offer us?
Yes. So we do prevention work. That's specifically part of our outreach and prevention. We do young education with young women from 8th to 12th grade. We also have middle school curriculum that is for everyone. We also do specific presentations for families and parents that revolve around protective factors, understanding themselves, their family unit, and society and community as a whole. So when we're talking about protective factors, we're talking about how to communicate with others in an effective way. These are all preventative tools that we use within education that help reduce crime as a whole. So those are kind of the programs that we work with. We work with the state. One of the programs that we're working now is with the CDC. These, again, are all like anywhere between 3-day to 12-week courses that we do with children.
Okay, so if I gave you the magic wand to help us in reducing our crime rate, what would you do? What can you do for the city of Lamar?
So first of all, I would talk with, first I would talk with the Child Advocacy Center here in Galveston County. They also do education. Their education is specific to, they do the Happy Bear program within the elementary schools. They also do middle school education on basic like boundaries within the student population. It also, again, those are all protective factors. We know that prevention, right? That's what prevention is. Teaching young children prevention factors. So I would probably partner with, just off the top of my head, I would partner with the Child Advocacy Center. The other things is that I would probably implement both the Building Healthy Communities program, which we do with middle schoolers, and our Be Strong program, which is for young women. I would probably implement those right away, as well as the presentations within the school, within the community on like bystander intervention. We have social media awareness for parents, understanding the domestic violence, the sexual assault, and how that actually affects the community as a whole. So those are all things that we can offer. I would also bring, if my opinion wouldn't matter for anything, I would definitely say I would bring probably the food bank in as well. They're an amazing resource that can offer, they do offer food, but they also offer lots of resources. So from the conversations that I'm hearing being said, a lot of it is education, are preventative through education and resources.
So let me ask you this, Rosa. You got a bunch of ideas. Can you solidify those and have a meeting with myself and the key members here that would get involved, like Lieutenant Fillmore, the DA, and others. Could you work that up and get a hold of me?
Yes, absolutely. I would love to do that. Yeah.
Is this going to cost us a lot of money, or can you?
No, actually, all of our services are free.
Good. I like hearing that. You made my day. Okay, look, I want you to work that up. Call me and I'll get the right people at the right place. Okay.
Yes,
We'll
yes,
work on that.
absolutely. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Madeline. Okay. I just want to, I think Chief Taylor must have been called off somewhere. If you're there, Chief, get on. If not, we'll go on. I want to talk about this real quick. You know, we've been talking about reactive versus preventative policing and so forth, community policing. From my memory, and the reason why we got to quit kicking the can down the road and become preventative and proactive, we're reactive. Our police department, we just don't have, we're not doing certain things that we should be doing. And I know we can. It's like this. The reasons why community policing works, 2/3 of all crime occurs inside. We don't have control of that. The 1/3 that's outside is covered up by trees, cars, trucks, and so forth. 6% of all criminals commit 70% of all crime. There's that small number that are doing most of the crime. 10% of most cities receive 70% of the calls for service. Just think of that. Lamarck's the same way. It might even be more. And they say, you know, crime, expeditious response, you know, that's always considered a concern of citizens. You took 10 minutes to get here. Well, 70%, 75% of all crimes are cold. The citizen gets home from their vacation, their house is broken into, their car is broken into. It's cold. So anyway, the 25% of when they're home in the house when it occurs, 50% wait about 5 minutes to call the police. You know who they call first? Most people, their husband at work or their aunt. By the way, you know, so we're behind the 8 ball on a lot of that stuff. That's why being preventive is important. Prevent the crimes from happening in the first place. No matter how fast you get there, most criminals, they say about only 4 to 5% of criminals are caught in the act. I've had 39 years of law enforcement. You know how many major crimes I've seen in front of me right there? About 2. And it was a shoplifting or something like that. So we really need to work on being preventative. And that's what COP, Community Owned Policing, is all about. I call it preventive policing. Okay, so with that, we're at 30 minutes. We're at 1 hour right now, and I don't want to go beyond another 30 minutes. We did a survey, thanks to Kyle, my genius over there. He put together a survey and we've had it out about 10 days, Kyle. Yeah, and it was 3 questions. Rank them in order of your concerns, your crime concerns. And for each of those 3, give us a solution. I'm going to pass this around to the board here. And you see it on the board there. We'll look at this real quick and talk about it. 43 responses. And, you know, I asked the citizens that Lamarque, to, if optional, it's optional to leave your name. And a lot of them left their name, first and last name. I was kind of surprised. Now, we shut the survey down today. And Kyle, we might want to keep it going. Turn it on tomorrow. But let's look at this. Number 1. And all 3 of these are together in the number 1. Most of them have said the top was gangs, shooting, and drugs. I kind of thought drugs would be up there. Number 2. Now this is important. Lighting. Criminals do not like to perform in lighted, illuminated conditions. You don't have to build rocket ships to know that. lighting. And we had Mayor, we had meetings on that, and we need to really work on that. And knowing Mayor, we will. It's expensive. You know, when I was studying security procedures for the Certified Protection Professional certification I have, lighting is, the traditional lighting is the high pressure sodium, the yellow, but you can't see much with that. The next best, but it's more expensive, is quartz. Well, they've gone one step even beyond that. It's LED. It's like broad daylight. And by the way, it's not as costly as it used to be. If you got bulbs in your house and it's not very lit up, go buy an LED bunch of bulbs. You wouldn't believe the difference. And it burns like 10% of the power. So lighting is an issue for the whole city, but it comes with a price tag, believe me. So we're going to work on that. And I know I'm just interim, but before we get the next guy or gal in there, I want to have that something done on that. Okay. Nighttime burglaries. That's another issue. And, you know, it talks about number 3, more officers on the streets. That's expensive. Officers are expensive. And I'll just say this. There's no chief in the world that will say they got enough officers. They'll never say that. But it's what you do with what you have. It's what you do with what you have. If you use them in the correct fashion, like directed patrol actions, going out there doing their mission rather than just patrolling. Random mark patrol is not effective. They've proven that in studies. Random mark patrol is not effective. But if you give them a job to be looking for the burglaries or for that red car or for that certain person, that is what solves crimes, not just go out there and run around the community. But I know communities, they want to say they haven't seen an officer in, 2 days or something. But when you only have a certain number, you can't be there the whole 24/7. It's hard. So these are the top 3. Let's talk about this real quick. Let's start out with Chief Johnson. Are you there?
I am.
Okay, there's the list for the Lamarck.
Yep, I see it.
It's probably something you've seen throughout your career, right?
Yeah, I mean, none of this is something that's new. It's all things that I think any of us have been in law enforcement any length of time have seen and have to try and deal with. I think that there's some key points I think that we have to take into consideration, and I touched upon it a little bit as we begin to discuss this earlier. You're right. There's absolutely no police department in this country that I'm aware of that will come out today and say we have more personnel than we actually need to deal with whatever the issues are within our community. So the next best thing, in my opinion, is to try and figure out how you can booster your manpower without actually hiring a bunch of cops. And for me, it's always been a situation where I was able to identify those entities within the community that could be, as we've told every citizen in the city, to be our eyes and ears. And one of the go-tos for me when I was dealing with these issues were the utility workers. I mean, obviously, you've got a number of people in your city that are involved in reading meters, whether it's water meters or electric meters or gas meters or something along those lines. And you meet those people, you build a trust with those people, and you set up a program by which they can identify and report to the police department any issues they see within their community. They're not police officers, don't expect them to take any action, those kinds of things, but to report and observe. Postal workers was a key to a lot of the investigations that I was involved in and working, because they're in the community every single day. They know the ins and outs of that community and the people that live in that community better than anyone that I know. And they can be a valuable asset to anyone that's trying to establish a network of folks that they can go to identify and maybe even resolve some issues within the community. But there's a lot of things that you can do as a police chief or an administrator of a city to try and solicit and bring people together to deal with those issues. You see the same thing that occurs with neighborhood associations and block captains and those kind of things. It's the same concept, except that we're broadening that concept out to include people that normally and traditionally would not be involved in the process. And it's just one of those things, it's kind of like a domino effect. We identified security companies that were operating within our city limits. I met with those people on a monthly basis, and we shared information about crimes that were taking place and where, and specifically around those areas that they had security guards posted. And we shared information back and forth. I mean, obviously we're not sharing information that would be crucial to a case for prosecution, but we're sharing information that we can. And they in turn will do the same for you. And it is amazing what information you can pick up from those folks. And I know a lot of this is attitude problems you're gonna have to deal with, because law enforcement officers have a tendency to look down on security officers as someone that's not highly trained, or certainly not up to the level of training that they feel a law enforcement officer has. And you're not asking these guys to be law enforcement officers. You're simply asking them to be part of your team. And the way you communicate that and how you deal with that and solicit their input is very, very important. And I think that in that way, you can deal with the shortage of manpower that you're going to have and constantly have. I don't think any city can afford to hire as many cops as they think they need to deal with the issues they have.
Okay, thank you, Chief. Constable Rose, you want to add something to this?
As someone, the gangs and the gangs and drugs and shooting, who do we have out there that look like these guys? For us, they can talk to, they can go to, for us, the gangs. I'll say probably about 3 months ago, they had a big party over at Carver Park. They were having a West Side reunion. And everyone knows West Side was the Bloods. Chief Stanton reached out to me. I lived on Carver Street. I knew everyone. Well aware of all the gang members back in the day. Arrested quite a few of them. Still in contact with quite a few of them. Some of them now are my best friends, because you build those relationships, because they trust you. They recognize me, I recognize them. The guy that was heading that ordeal up promised me. I couldn't be there. I told him I wanted to be there for them, and I was going to do this. He promised me that there would not be an incident because of trust. Trust in me, trusting me as being a law enforcement officer, and wanting to represent the community as a whole. But nowadays, who do we have that we're putting out there as law enforcement that look like them, that's in these neighborhoods that they can have trust on? There's no one that I can see out there right now besides myself that they still come to on a daily basis. Call, text, whatever. My phone stays busy because of the trust. We have to get back into these neighborhoods, talking to these people, because when they were having the raids, the marshal's office down here, I was in meetings with the gang members getting backdoor information, feeding it to the marshal's office. Trust. That work is going to go a long way. Officers that they can acknowledge, and they will they will do anything for you if they trust you. But if they don't trust you, they're not going to talk to you. So if we don't get back into the streets, one-on-one, sitting at the dinner tables with them like I do, go to church with them like I do, then maybe we will get to this safe city initiative that the mayor wants. We can do all the lighting stuff, we can do all this, but if we don't get boots on the ground and talk to them, go out there while the kids out there, swing the bat with them, play baseball with them, do the little things. if you do the little things, the big things will come. Thank you.
Thank you, Derrick. Okay, anybody want to add anything else? Okay. What I did is I went of the 13 factors, Kyle, if you could put that up there, the 13 factors of, according to the FBI. We've got all bases covered, so. There you go. Okay, looking at the first one, population density and degree of urbanization. You know, we have a great EDC. Alex Getty, he's a genius on that. He's magic. That's stuff he would be working on. The next one, variations of composition, same thing, EDC. Stability of the population. Really, again, EDC, but modes of transportation, EDC. Cultural factors, EDC. Family conditions with respect to, that's me, Rosa, and her expertise. Climate, I put God. I mean, I don't know what you could do on that other than effective strength of it. That'd be our city. Administrative investigative emphasis, again, the city of Lamarque and the PD. Policies of other components of criminal justice, such as prosecutory, that's going to be the DA and Megan Jones and her crew and the judge. Citizens' attitudes towards crime. I think community policing would satisfy that. Something what Derrick was talking about, getting out there and working with building a proactive partnership with the community so they jointly get involved with us. That's community policing, preventive policing. Crime reporting practices of the citizenry. Again, community policing. By the way, I will tell you this, studies have shown when you start doing preventive policing, community policing, there's a dip. I have to brief the mayor on this. I think I told him this many years ago when he was a councilman. Crime may go up. Crime may go up. And he said, wait a minute, we're doing this wonderful effort and philosophy. Well, people now are more confident with their police department and they report stuff that they never reported before. They call it the dark side of crime. It goes up. I had a city where it went up. I said, it'll go down, and it did go down. So crime reporting practices of the citizenry, dark side of crime will happen, but it will go eventually stabilize and go down. So I think we got everything covered here. If not, let me know. We've got a plan somewhat. And let me tell you what's going to happen next. This is phase 2. We're talking about citizens' concerns, mainly putting it together in the entire package, formulating ideas. Between now and phase 3, which I presume is going to take place, Mayor mentioned this to Mayor Bill, over sometime the latter part of January. So between now and the latter part of January, the panelists will be talking, probably a couple of Zoom meetings, coming up with, as the mayor wanted, a 1-year goal, a 3-year goal, and 5-year goals. And I'm not one for many goals because I want to under promise and over deliver. So I would say no more than 5 goals. Don't put us, make it unmanageable. We want to make it work. So my vision is, as the mayor's vision, is to have some workable goals for the first, third, and 5th year, and then really achieve them. We got to talk our talk, but let's walk our talk and get there. And the sliding situation, it's going to happen because we got to work on that. So with that, any closing comments from anybody?
Yes.
Russell.
Chief, I want to thank you for getting out and getting back, to start talking about it. I'll be real happy, like Derrick said, when we really start to walk it and to make it happen and to see the turnaround. You look at the city of Lamarque and you wonder, Derrick and I both graduated from the city of Lamarque, from Lamarque High School in the city of Lamarque. If half of the people who moved away would just come back and get involved back in the city, we could really make a dent in everything that's going on and really turn this thing around. We talk about cougar pride and everything like that, but just like Van Staver said, everybody moved away. You left your mom and dad's house who they worked all their life with, and you just decided you was going to go on the other side of the track and thought it was green over there. But now that you went out in the world and made it, we would love for you to just come back and give us that helping hand. Come back and get involved in some group with the city and just try to work on turning this thing back around, because we all still love Lamar. We all claim we're from Lamarck High School or we were raised in Lamarck. But let's get back to the city and let's start, put our sleeves up and let's start working for it. Thank you.
Thank you, Russell. Any other comments before we close? Anybody on the Zoom? Thank you for being part of this. I'll be getting back with you, so don't leave town.
Chief.
Mayor, I'm going to turn it back.
Hi. Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh, go ahead.
I was gonna say this. This is really cool. I actually live in Lamarck off of Lamar Drive, and I just feel super excited to hear all of these amazing people talking about improving this neighborhood and improving this city, which is growing really fast. And I just want to say thank you to all of you who are investing your time and efforts into this. Just thank you.
Thank you, Rose. Mayor, back to you. Thank you for this brainchild, and we're gonna get there. So, you got any closing comments?
Yes, sir. Mr. Carlson, you have anything?
I do, actually, for once. What y'all said about getting the trust, that's 100% fact. I know that. I have my herd of kids, and my 14-year-old comes and tells me all the time about, hey, I went and talked to so-and-so. Okay, I'm glad you feel comfortable talking to them. And that's the school resource officer. Or if she's messing up, I hear from the school resource officer. So it works both ways. So you guys are 100% right. As the chief said about the postal workers, I never would have thought of that. Never would have thought of them as a resource. So that's a good thing. But I appreciate everything that y'all do. And you guys are on the right track. And thank you for all your time and your hard effort to make this initiative work.
Councilwoman Yancey, she sent me a text during this session, and she's interested in the lighting, and we're getting there. So I just want to let you know.
Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Carlson. Certainly your words of encouragement are needed in a time like this. I want to thank the panel, certainly for your participation. All of you have expertise in your respective fields. Thank you for helping us to understand crime in our community, and helping us to understand how we need to look at crime in our community so that we can then formulate a plan to address the issues in which we face. I also received a text from one of our citizens in this community, and they added, in essence, one of the bigger challenges we have is to try to, and it's not necessarily something we can do as a community and as a city, but to try to bring fathers back into the homes of our families. And we can't mandate that, obviously, as a municipality, but what we can do is we can try to provide jobs, right? And affordable housing, right? Affordable, decent housing. We can do those things. And we can encourage the family structure to be revived in our city by the way that we behave and some of the things that we do as a community. And so I look forward to that piece being added to what we do, because we know, and it's proven scientifically, that when fathers are in homes, homes tend to fare better. Doesn't mean that fathers are the end all be all of homes. Many of our mothers have done great things in the absence of fathers, but we're saying that families tend to do better. And so we'll definitely do our part bringing jobs. In fact, Amazon is here. We're working on some jobs for the dog track site. And in our city, there are certainly over 500 new permits on last year for new homes. And so that's a great opportunity for that. Let me say this. What I saw, what I heard was especially and in particularly from those members that participated on the survey. There were 43 responses. And what I saw in essence was that people in our community, people that live here, are concerned about gangs, they're concerned about shootings, and they're concerned about drugs. 43 responses, which is a good sample size when you have a survey such as this. And their remedy to this, watch this, their remedy to this is more patrol officers, a gang task force, and a way to show that we don't tolerate crime in our community, right? That's what the idea of broadcasting mugshots was intended to accomplish. And the third question, again, basically suggested that we needed more officers on the street. And so let me share with you what the council has been doing up until this point. And certainly we know that Chief Argon has just suggested to us that our violent crime average is higher than that in the state of Texas. We know that this is unfortunately, one of the more violent communities in Texas. We know that our property crime is almost double what it is in the great state of Texas. That's here in Lamarck. Violent crime is high. Property crime is high right here in our city. As you heard me say before, there are, and Chief, I keep losing count, but there are between 25 to 27 unsolved murders. There may be more. The last time we talked, that's what the number was. Unsolved murders in our community, and there are 300 plus unsolved felonies right here in Lamarck in our community. What has the council done, or what is the council doing about this? Well, Chief Argon just shared with us that there are 13 factors that cause crime, 13 of them. And he said to us that 2 of them are in particular things that this council can do something about. The first one, he said, was administrative and investigative. And the second one, he said, was the strength of law enforcement. Now, what has the council done in this budget to address the administrative and the investigative components? To Chief's point, this council has invested in a new detective. And I believe we have 3 now. And so I believe that we will have 4 detectives. And that goes toward the investigative piece of what we're trying to do in our city. 300 unsolved felonies, 27 unsolved murders. We also added our narcotics investigator. One of the issues, according to the survey and according to Chief Argon and the police department, is an issue of drugs. And so we have 2 investigators of drugs in our police force. Now we will have 3. The third thing that we were able to do as a council was that we were able to hire and bring in 2 members of what we call a streets crimes unit, right? And again, that is targeted toward the investigative and the prevention process, because street crimes, that unit would go toward wherever the crimes are occurring, and that unit would be focused on the types of crimes that are prevalent in that particular time period. West side, east side, central, north, south, robbery, vandalism, arson, whatever those may be. That group will be flexible enough to address those issues in real time. Also, on the administrative piece of the factors that cause crime, this group, the council, also has invested in a new deputy chief. I believe Chief Wagner is the deputy chief now. And that deals with the administrative piece, because we need somebody in our organization that is able not only to ascertain the information, but to understand it, and then to maneuver as a police department and maneuver the forces and the resources in a way that would cause us to be safer. And the second part of what Chief Argon said as a factor that caused crime is strengthen law enforcement. And so what this council has done in this last budget is we provided more equipment, 10 police cars. We've provided more training. We have provided mental health. Remember, we have officers that are working these streets every day, and that takes a toll on them mentally, regardless of what they see. The fact that they are always having to stand at the ready takes a toll on them mentally. Many of them have PTSD. Many of them suffer from all sorts of other mental health issues. And certainly this will go a long way to try to reduce those issues. Compensation and benefits. We are in negotiation right now with the Lamarque Police Officers Association, and we're trying to come up with an agreement that would speak to our ability to compensate them better. And let me say this, they have been negotiating with us in good faith. They have brought a lot of ideas to the table, and I believe that we would have a deal that we could present to council for ratification sooner rather than later. And one of the other things that relates to the strength in law enforcement in our community is the functional facilities. And we know, those of us that have toured our police department, we know that our police department is in deplorable condition. It has been this way for quite some time. I have been on this bandwagon for years. I believe when you were here the first go around, Chief, I was beating the drum of better facilities. And so we have to bring this to our citizens. We have to make sure that they understand that it is important for us to invest in our police department, even in the facilities. Because if they don't have the tools that they need to do their job, then how can we expect them to do their job with excellence? Let me say this also, as it relates to this broken window theory. I believe wholeheartedly in the broken window theory, which is why years ago, Ms. Van Staveren, years ago, we fought to get these homes demolished and to get these weeds cleared and things of that particular nature. We've invested a lot of money. Now the returns are coming back, right? We're getting new homes built on those old lots. And the new homes will bring in new families, and new families will take ownership of their communities, and then they will help us out, to Constable Rowe's point, in our increased relationship with the PD. But we didn't stop there. The council mandated a zero tolerance policy for code enforcement, which means that we are cutting to the chase, which means that we are making sure that all code violations are being addressed immediately, because that speaks to crime. Let me say this. I don't think that anybody here, and let's say this in a way that we can work with one another, because we have to move forward together. I don't think that any law enforcement official here would suggest that we can do this with less resources instead of more resources, right? And let me make sure that I'm gonna leave space for us to if we disagree, we can do that in this public forum. Who in here, as it relates to law enforcement officials, Kathleen, I'll include you in this question. Who believes that we can do this with less resources? And so we won't be able to do it with less resources. The investment that the council has made is an investment that is more than necessary. And so as we move forward in the coming weeks and months, and as we look at how we are going to pay for these items, there is a tax rollback election that will be coming forward in May. We can discuss these things. We move forward together. We find out what we can do. We find out the ways that we can pursue what we need to pursue in order to make our city the safest city in Texas, right? There is no right answer, nor is there a wrong answer. There is no bad guy, nor is there a good guy. We're all residents of this great city, and nobody wants to live in fear, and nobody wants to be victims of crime, and nobody wants to have to deal with the things that people have to deal with when their cities are sieged and besieged with crime. None of us want that. And yes, we do understand that inflation is real, and certainly we understand that things cost and prices are rising. We get all that. But this is a serious discussion that we have to have with our community. If we want to be safer, the only thing we can do is make an investment in our safety. That's the goal. The goal is to be safer. I was elected for one reason in my mind and one reason only, and that's to make Lamarque safer. That's what I will live with, and that's what I'll die with. And year after years go by, and certainly you look back on my time as mayor, if you were to say anything after I'm gone, the one thing that I want you to be able to say is, this mayor was a public safety mayor. He had one goal, and that goal was to make Lamarque the safest city in Texas. And I'm hanging everything that I am on this. And certainly, Chief, a lot is on your plate, and I thank you for what you're doing to try to work this out. Again, we're with you. Thank you all for participating. I'm excited about what we're doing. Let me say this before we close. Two things. Kiara, would you please make sure that Texas New Mexico Power Company is at our next regular meeting, because we need to get some answers. The public needs to be able to speak to them. They need to answer the tough questions about lighting, right? And we need to do this in a way that everybody can hear the answers to these questions. And secondly, I believe December 8th, Chief Argonne, December 8th at 5:30, December 8th at 5:30, we will have a tour of the police station. If anyone is interested in looking at the conditions which our officers work as it relates to the police station, December 8th at 5:30, we will have a tour. Everybody is welcome. Again, there are no good guys or bad guys. We're not thinking like that. We're thinking like this: whoever has the best ideas to move our city forward to a safer city, please come. Please come. We're all one team, and this is one Lamarque. And that's how we move forward. Again, if there are no other questions, certainly I want to thank this panel for being here. I respect you highly, and I look forward to continuing to work with you. But I want to thank the community, those of you that have come here today physically to listen and be a part of what we're doing. Those of you that have joined us online, whether it's YouTube or Zoom or some of the other platforms, we want to thank you as well. I'm excited about what is to come. I look forward to the progress that this city can make. Is there anything further? Well, this meeting stands adjourned.